All right. As you guys know, MLB is kicking off its winter meetings every year that they host. This year, it's going to be in Orlando. Obviously, we're going to talk Yankees, and one person we're going to talk in particular is Brian Cashman. He decided to do a flurry of interviews today, and I'm going to break down exactly what some of his comments might mean.
Downtown goes Frazier.
We're going to talk a little bit about this winter meeting setup and how things have been before the winter meetings and how it might slightly change after the winter meetings. So, leading up to the winter meetings, you had some Hal Steinbrenner comments about how he would love to potentially be under the luxury tax threshold, but necessarily that doesn't mean that they're going to do that. And then you have Michael Kay kind of saying some stuff like, don't be surprised if the Yankees go under it. And then you got John Heyman saying that they're going to go above it. So when Cashman kind of comes out of hiding and I felt like he was feeling good tonight whenever I saw him in that jacket. You know, Cashman always has his bracelets on and always has a little bit of swag to him, and his voice is deep, and he always speaks like he's, you know, just one step ahead of everybody else, and that we're kind of just like not in the same realm of like the mind space that he navigates in. And so when I saw that he was out there in his swag and he was joking around and he was making comments, I felt like we caught him at a good time. And that good time could be maybe they do have something planned. Obviously, I think that they have some stuff that they're going to do. They're being very secretive in how they're working this offseason. I don't really know what advantage that plays for them. When you're the New York Yankees, you could probably go out and just buy whoever the hell you want. And so I would maybe be navigating right now, especially given the state of where the fans are at and how much they want some news. I'd be dangling that carrot and saying, we've got something big coming, because they should. I mean, they're talking about it's Cody Bellinger, Kyle Tucker. I mean, players like that. And I don't know if they're going to get Kyle Tucker. I don't know. I don't know the whole why he's like projected the $400 million salary. He's not better than Aaron Judge. So I don't feel like he should be getting a larger salary than Aaron does. And I don't think that in the game of baseball, anyone should have a larger salary than him because he's so levels above him. Now, I know age plays a factor and whatnot, but Aaron Judge is the best baseball player, no doubt. So no one should be paying or be paid more than him. So if it's not going to be Kyle Tucker, then you have to set your sights and put in your crosshairs Cody Bellinger. Because if Cody Bellinger doesn't sign, some of these players on that roster with where it stands right now, it's a huge drop off from thinking Cody Bellinger is going to be here every day to maybe it's going to be these guys. So it's boom or bust with some of these players. You have to go out and get those guys. It's a must get. I cannot envision an offseason where the Yankees don't go out and at least get one premier free agent. You got to get one. So if I'm Brian Cashman, the way that he went out in that interview, look good, feel good, act good. I mean, he was enjoying himself. I mean, you could tell by the way that he went on 2 interviews, MLB Network and the Yes Network, and he wanted to go out there and kind of puff his chest and be like, I'm the GM of the New York Yankees and we're going to do some stuff and whatnot. So, hey, good for that guy for showing up to Orlando winter meetings and giving fans maybe optimism, because like there could be slight optimism, but I don't know. I feel like right now we're watching a guy that's kind of like he's just playing around. He's got something cooking. I don't know what that meal is going to be, but he's cooking a meal, and it could be in a microwave or it could be on a Blackstone grill with some good sauce in it that he's cooking up for us. So we're going to just stay tuned for what this guy's got to offer, and everything else that I'm going to say about the winter meetings is to come next. Oh, how the tides have turned. Now, I'm sitting here ready to give a real-life reaction and commentary to some of the comments that Brian Cashman had to make at the winter meetings. Now, as you guys know, if you've followed my career, I spent majority of my time in the big leagues with the Yankees, and I went through many off seasons where you guys put me in every single trade proposal. Now, obviously, I didn't get traded. My time with New York came to an end at some point, and now I'm sitting in my basement getting ready to go over the winter meetings for the Yankees and what Brian Cashman had to say and maybe what he didn't say. And so let's just kick it off that way. So Brian Cashman decided to go on and do some MLB Network interviews today. And he made some comments to me that, again, as a person that's analyzing this either through a former player's lens or disgruntled or whatever box you guys want to put me in for how I view the Yankees and what my time was like there. I'm just kind of looking at it from somebody that actually has been around the dude, had many conversations with him, and kind of might have a feel for where it's going to go, or maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I would like to put it in betting terms that I'm minus 200 right now. I mean, might be right, might be wrong. So, something to me that keeps sticking out is that Brian Cashman, in his interview with MLB Network tonight, he was talking about Jasson Dominguez. Um, Made some comments saying that the left field spot probably would have been his if Trent Grisham didn't kind of come out of nowhere and have a borderline all-star year. I think the first thought that I had in my head whenever I heard him say if kind of came out of nowhere, borderline all-star year, the first thought that I had was, well, you just offered him $22 million right after that. And you kind of made it seem like it came out of nowhere. So if it came out of nowhere, is it sustainable? That's really what I'm thinking, is that they are kind of leaning on that edge of saying that they do believe that Trent Grisham can repeat at least somewhat of what his season looked like in 2025. And obviously, we're going to find that out. I mean, $22 million comes at a huge price tag for somebody that you're saying kind of came out of nowhere and had a borderline all-star season. So when I hear that, my initial reaction is that. And then I have another thought that comes to mind where when I kind of read between the lines and listen to what he's saying whenever he talks about the qualifying offer, it somewhat feels like to me that he was surprised that he took it. Or maybe he didn't want him to take it. Or maybe they were in a situation where they didn't think that they were going to spend a lot this offseason. So they went ahead and gave him a price tag that they probably believe is a little too high for what he is. And they were okay with it because they might not be going out and getting the other players that are going to be the premium outfielders on the market. Cody Bellinger and Kyle Tucker is kind of what I'm talking about. So when I hear those comments about the Trent Grisham situation and then the Jasson Dominguez situation and kind of how he's said in the past that if spring training starts today, he's going to have to go and reclaim that job. It again, I don't really know where to stand with this left field spot because it sounds like it's going to be a situation where Dominguez has to go and reclaim it. But then I feel like he's kind of sprinkled a few other comments in there along the way that have said, we're looking for another outfielder. So I think depending upon what they're going to do with that luxury tax threshold, I saw some stuff saying that they're projected to be about 279. So if projections are right, which, we never know if they are, they're going to be under the threshold if that number stands true. So the left field spot as of right now is Jasson Dominguez's if spring training started, but kind of sounds like he's exploring things because he did say Cody Bellinger is still in play. The questions that Cashman was being asked and the comments that he was giving to those questions, they make fans on social media go crazy because right now fans are sitting around waiting for moments like these where they can sit and have a real life experience with the guy that's going to be running their team and one of the dudes that's ultimately in charge of their happiness for the year of 2026. So Cashman's got a lot on his plate in terms of making very unhappy people happy. And I don't think for moments like these that Cashman's going to be a particularly popular guy on social media. I think that the media themselves is going to have a field day with some of the comments that he said because he really didn't give us anything interesting. He pointed out a lot of things that people with eyes can see. And so when you just speak about the obvious things and you keep the more unobvious things closer to your chest, it does make people upset. And I think that's a very natural reaction. So just to unpack a few things that he said he said we have a really good team on paper right now. And on paper, that's fine. But on paper doesn't win World Series. I do agree with him. They do have a really good team, but they do have a lot of holes. And one thing that as this video continues to proceed that I want to do is I want to look at the current lineup and show you guys where I think the top half of the lineup is versus what the bottom of the half of the lineup is. And if they don't make that bottom half of the lineup a little more scary and the depth pieces a little more MLB like tuned players, then they're going to have a problem whenever they're trying to turn that lineup over. And that's something that we're going to get into. Another thing that stood out to me from the MLB Network interview is that Cashman did say that they're vulnerable early on because their starting pitchers are injured. We know that Garrett Cole's coming back from Tommy John. We know that Carlos Rodon got something with a shaved down bone in his throwing elbow. And then we know that Clark Schmidt has Tommy John. We also heard that one of the reasons that Ryan Yarbrough got re-signed was he's probably going to be one of the guys that fills a role early on in the starting pitching rotation. So I would expect to see him going out there. You could see him transition into a long relief guy once some of those guys start trickling their way back into the rotation. But sitting here right now, I still just can't get the thought out of my head that Justin Verlander might somehow find his way into a pinstripe uniform. Now, he is somebody that obviously has a star-tracked resume, and he's done insane things over the course of his career. He's going to be a guy that's going into his lower to mid 40s. Yeah, I said that. Lower to mid 40s, and he's still pitching at an insanely high valuable rate. So I think that you could get him for a little bit of a lesser side of the 10 million range. I don't know. I'm still new to this, guys, but I still think that he could be somebody that they could go out, they could get him for a little bit cheaper. They know that he's a guy that you could count on. Will he give you 200 innings? I don't know. Really, what it's going to come down to is all we're going to talk about until the cards that the Yankees are playing with this offseason start to be shown is what will that threshold be that they're willing to go over for the payroll. So if they're trying to be someone that's a little more conservative and not spend a lot of money, Justin Verlander to me makes sense. They love signing the veteran pitchers. They love it. And he had a good season last year. But if they decide that they're going to go out and spend a little bit more money, there are guys out there still. I mean, we know that Michael King is an option. I know that I've seen stuff that says that they would love to have a reunion with him. Kinger pitched great whenever he was in New York. He pitched great whenever he was out in New York. So a reunion could be something that both parties might welcome to come back. I mean, obviously, we're going to see as the time unfolds, but we know that the Yankees will be vulnerable with the starting pitching, with a few of their guys being injured. To continue to piggyback off of the pitching topic, we know that last year that was an area of the team that hurt them whenever they needed it the most. Now, it can't be the Yankees' problem always. Players do have to take accountability. They're the ones that are ultimately out there throwing the pitches. But when you have pitchers that sometimes play out of position and throw innings that they're necessarily not used to, one begs the question to say, is that really useful for the player? So maybe that could be reasons why things happen. Maybe it could be some stuff along the way that nobody can really control, and it's just the game of baseball. But we know that Luke Weaver is not a part of this team right now, and we know that Devin Williams just signed with the Mets. Now, I saw a lot of people on Yankees Twitter that were unhappy and happy that Devin Williams didn't sign back. So depending on what version you got of Devin Williams would have really decided if you wanted him back or not. He ended the season actually pretty strong, given the state of what it looked like early on. But we know that he's a really good pitcher, so I would expect him to bounce back. With all of that being said, Cashman has talked about the minor league pitchers. And one thing that I will give him credit for and the other people in the organization credit for is that they do know how to develop pitchers. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that all those pitchers are insane studs, but they do have a Rolodeck of arms that seem to be ready or close to ready always, and they're pretty good. They're guys that throw 100+ miles an hour. They have insane qualities. So we know internally that they've got some minor league players that they probably will rely on. But as far as the free agents go, they need to go out and look. I mean, I saw the one guy that I wanted them to sign the most, the one guy, Emilio Pagan. He's off the board. So you can ensure that the Yankees will be looking at relief pitchers because they did lose two big dogs that they leaned on in moments that they needed them the most. So the team could be thin in starting pitching and maybe a little thin towards the back end of the bullpen. We know they've got Bednar, but Bednar can't pitch the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th every single inning. So they will be looking for players to fill those roles. Cashman was asked about Tatsuya Imai, and it made it seem to me like the door was closed pretty shut. I don't know what he's thinking as far as what he will do with that guy. He said that he's What's up, brother? What's up, dog? He said that he was represent. By the way, I need to address the Thunder shirt. This cat right here, this guy, he screams all day long, and it's pretty late at night. And so what I'm doing is I put this dude in his Gucci sweater, and it kind of makes him quiet. It's really good. It's actually insane. This is the worst cat ever. It is a spawn of Satan, and I need him to be quiet while I'm filming. So one thing that Cashman said was that Tatsuya Imai is represented by Scott Boras, and Scott Boras is a tough guy to work with. He represents a lot of players that will be free agents for years to come, and I don't know if we're going to get him considering the Yankees have some issues with the payroll, potentially. So thank you for ruining that part of the clip, Poppy, but I'm sure people will enjoy it if they made it this far. So yeah, Tatsuya Imai probably off limits for the Yankees. Now, the part of the interview that I think bothered fans the most was the part whenever Brian Cashman started to talk about Anthony Volpe. He's had many of opportunities in the past to talk about Volpe and say things that could be somewhere along the line of like, hey, this guy might not be our guy moving forward. He's just, somebody that we thought was going to be here and we're going to move on from him. And he could have said that many times, but he's chosen not to. And I think one of the things that sticks out the most with me with the Yankees is that they do kind of get stuck in their ways, right? Everybody seems to be like watching a different game than what they're watching. There's a little bit of gaslighting that goes on at times where they make people think that they're crazy for what we're thinking or feeling, and it's completely opposite of what they're saying and what they're seeing themselves. And so the shortstop position is a premier premium spot. It has to be manned by a good player. And obviously, we know that in the past, it was manned by some pretty good players in Derek Jeter and Didi Gregorius. So when along comes Anthony Volpe, a hometown kid that didn't have a lot of playing time in AAA and then has a really down season last year where people just continued to talk about him the entire time. I mean, we were analyzing his every move, but from a player on the outside looking in, I just saw what looked like a guy that was dejected, right? I mean, I don't think that he's a bad player, but I don't know if he's going to be the kind of player that the fans want and are yearning for in the shortstop position. So with Anthony Volpe having the season that he had last year, and then he's going to be spending all offseason recovering from a surgery that he had on his left shoulder, you could wonder if the Yankees are going to fill that spot. I mean, I said in the past that they should explore maybe trying to see if Mason Wynn's available from the Cardinals and going after somebody that you could have controllable years for. The Cardinals have already made it seem like they're going to be open to trading some players. I mean, I saw Wilson Contreras the other day saying that he's open to waiving his no trade clause. And so it seems like there's opportunities to maybe tap the market and see what you've got there. But from my point of view, looking in right now, it feels like the Yankees are just going to deploy Jose Caballero out there, and whoever else at shortstop they've got might be his backup. And with the comments earlier where Cashman said that they're going to be vulnerable early on with their starting pitching, and then maybe they might be vulnerable at the shortstop position, to me, it just doesn't make sense to be that vulnerable early on after you had a season where you had the same record with the Toronto Blue Jays and you lost the head-to-head, and that's why you didn't win the division. So every game matters, and I think when you're rolling out players that every single person out there seems to be feeling some type of way, I'm like a big believer in if people keep saying the same thing over and over again, there might be some truth to it. So there might be some truth to the fact that the Yankees should go out and find somebody else to play the shortstop position. But I think that the one thing that the Yankees do better than anyone else is that they will stick to their guns and make you think that their way is the right way. And they're just waiting for him to have a breakout moment so they can look at us and be like, you guys were crazy. We knew what we had all along. But I think something that needs to be noted about Anthony Volpe is that he will be coming back from the shoulder injury, and Volpe has options. He has options. He did not have a lot of playing time in AAA, so he's certainly somebody that you could sit down into the minor leagues and have an extended rehab assignment, because once you get on your rehab assignment, you can only be down there for an X amount of days before you have to be called up or sent back down. And obviously, he's going to not have a full offseason that's going to look normal. So they need to make the most of the opportunity to give him extended at bats and bring him up when it matters. And obviously, if he comes back up, he shouldn't be coming up after he's going 0 for X and going into a position that everybody's just not wanting to see him playing at. So those are my thoughts on the shortstop position, and we'll see what happens once that guy gets healthy. Okay, this is the part of the video where we're going to look at the lineup, and we're going to talk about how good it is at the top and how bad it is at the bottom. Now, when I hear Brian Cashman say that this is a good team on paper, I agree. But if he were to say this is a really, really good team on paper, I'm not going to agree. And one of the reasons why I think that is because when you're looking at a lineup and you're trying to sit back and you're thinking to yourself, is this a lineup that I want to deploy in the playoffs? Where they currently stand right now is a hell no. If they don't make any additions to this lineup, the bottom half of that lineup falls off so fast that Aaron Judge will probably rarely see anybody on base outside of the leadoff man, and that will be a problem. Now, I do believe that the Yankees will make additions to this roster, but where we're at right now and what this team currently is, I want to talk about what it looks like and how quickly it falls off. So I'm not the guy that makes the lineup. I'm just the guy that's going to read to you the lineup that I think they might throw out there. So leading off next year, I believe, is going to be Trent Grisham. We saw him do it plenty during the season whenever he was there last year. We've seen him do it in a lot of situations. So I think hitting second is going to be Aaron Judge. I think third is going to be Ben Rice. I think fourth is probably going to be Giancarlo Stanton. I think fifth is going to be Jazz Chisholm. Now, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th are going to be TBDs, because this is where it's interesting. You really don't have anybody there where you're like, I love that guy in that spot. The only guy that sticks out as the true 6-hole spot to me right now would be Jasson Dominguez. Now, I think followed by Dominguez, you could see Austin Wells. I think after Wells, you could see Ryan McMahon. And then I think after Ryan McMahon would be Jose Caballero. So that would put Jasson Dominguez at 6, 7 Austin Wells, 8 Ryan McMahon, and 9 Jose Caballero. Now, this is the part where I'm going to kind of flip that, because I don't love that, but I think that's what they're going to do. So if the lineup doesn't have any changes to it, opening day, if this is what it is, and now obviously you could make the case that Oswaldo Cabrera could be in there, and I don't know. I'm just going with what I think it's going to be right now, and where they might be could be different than what I'm saying. But with no additions changed, the one change that I would make would be to take Dominguez out of the 6-hole and put him at the 9-hole. And the reason being is because the lineup is so weak at the bottom that you should treat the 9-hole spot like it's a second leadoff man. So some could say Jose Caballero could be a second leadoff man, but I don't want to be depending on him to turn the lineup over consistently when you've got Trent Grisham and Aaron Judge at the top. So I would much rather put Jasson Dominguez in that 9-hole spot, treat it like it's a second leadoff man, and see what he can do. I mean, you might be able to sneak him down there and he gets more fastballs. I mean, that's really the whole point of putting guys that are good hitters a little bit lower down in the lineup, is so you could get them fed fastballs a little more, because hitting's a little easier whenever you know a fastball is coming. So if that is where the lineup is at opening day, 7th, 8th, and 9th, and even the 6-hole, it's going to be a problem. So obviously we know that Anthony Volpe could be coming back and take Jose Caballero's spot, which would change the lineup around. But really, how much firepower does that add back to the lineup if the version of Anthony Volpe that we get in 2026 is the version that we had in 2025? So I think, given the state of where this lineup is currently at and where the starting pitching is currently at, and where the shortstop position in left field is currently at, the Yankees have a little bit of a problem, if you're asking this guy. Because if we want to put them pound for pound next to the other teams in the AL East and think, where is this team going to be at when all the dust settles, if they don't make any additions, this team is probably not going to win the division. I mean, they might surprise you. They might go out and have some incredible years from some of these players, but I think it's just going to be a tall task to ask these dudes to go out and beat the Blue Jays and the Red Sox, and you could assume that the Orioles might come back with a little bit more firepower next year, and somehow the Rays might find another dude selling popcorn that comes down and turns into an all-star. I mean, you really just don't want to lean on this current lineup. So I know that they're pretty left-handed heavy and that additions will potentially be made, but if they're not, the Yankees are in trouble.